For decades, detectives chased a killer who seemed to have disappeared without leaving a trace. The investigation stretched across years. Evidence grew old, witnesses' memories faded, and families of the victims feared justice would never come. Every promising lead ended in disappointment, and the case slowly became another cold file gathering dust in police archives. But what the killer never expected was that a tiny strand of DNA, invisible to the naked eye, would survive the passage of time. Advances in forensic science transformed what had once been an impossible mystery into a solvable case. Investigators returned to evidence that had been collected years earlier, and one microscopic mistake ultimately exposed the person who believed they had escaped forever. This is the story of how modern DNA technology changed a cold case investigation and proved that even the smallest clue can bring a dangerous criminal to justice. Today we will talk about the cold case killer caught by one tiny DNA mistake. So, before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. The crime that shocked a community. The investigation began after a young woman was found murdered in her own home under circumstances that immediately suggested foul play. Detectives carefully processed the crime scene, collecting fingerprints, fibers, hair samples, clothing, and biological evidence. At the time, forensic science was far less advanced than it is today. Although investigators preserved every possible piece of evidence, many of the collected samples could not be fully analyzed with the technology available. The killer appeared to have left almost nothing behind, and despite interviewing hundreds of witnesses and pursuing numerous suspects, detectives were unable to identify the person responsible. The investigation goes cold. Months turned into years, and years eventually became decades. New detectives inherited the investigation, reviewing thousands of pages of reports, witness interviews, and forensic records. Every anniversary of the crime renewed public interest, but each new lead ended the same way, with unanswered questions. Family members continued hoping someone would finally come forward with information, while investigators refused to permanently close the case. Cold case detectives often believe that the smallest overlooked detail can eventually become the key to solving a crime, and that belief kept this investigation alive long after many assumed it would never be solved. A tiny piece of DNA changes everything. Years later, advances in forensic DNA analysis gave investigators an opportunity to re-examine evidence collected from the original crime scene. Scientists carefully tested biological material that had previously produced little useful information. This time they successfully developed a DNA profile from an incredibly small sample left behind by the offender. What once seemed insignificant suddenly became the investigation's most valuable piece of evidence. Detectives compared the DNA profile against national databases, but initially found no direct match. Rather than giving up, investigators explored additional forensic techniques that had become available through advances in genetic science. Modern technology opens new doors. Investigators began using investigative genetic genealogy, a technique that has helped solve numerous cold cases in recent years. By comparing crime scene DNA with publicly available family tree databases used by individuals who voluntarily submitted their DNA for genealogical research, forensic experts identified distant relatives who shared portions of the unknown suspect's genetic profile. Genealogists then painstakingly constructed family trees spanning multiple generations, eliminating hundreds of individuals, until detectives narrowed the investigation to a single person whose age, location, and background matched the evidence collected years earlier. What had once appeared impossible was now becoming a realistic path toward identifying the killer. Surveillance and DNA confirmed the truth. Before making an arrest, investigators needed to confirm that their suspect's DNA matched the crime scene evidence. Detectives conducted discreet surveillance, monitoring the suspect's daily routine, while ensuring they remained unaware of the investigation. During this period, investigators legally collected DNA from an item the suspect had discarded in public, such as a drinking cup or tissue. Laboratory testing revealed that the newly obtained DNA matched the profile recovered from the crime scene years earlier. After decades of uncertainty, investigators finally possessed the forensic evidence needed to move forward with an arrest. The arrest that ended years of mystery. When detectives arrested the suspect, the news stunned the community. Many people had known the individual for years without ever suspecting a connection to the unsolved murder. Friends and neighbors described the suspect as someone who appeared ordinary and lived a seemingly normal life. Investigators, however, emphasized that appearances can be misleading and that forensic evidence ultimately connected the suspect to the crime. Prosecutors later presented DNA evidence alongside witness testimony, investigative records, and other forensic findings to demonstrate how the case had finally been solved after remaining unsolved for decades. Why DNA has revolutionized cold cases? The successful resolution of this investigation demonstrated the extraordinary impact of modern forensic science. Tiny biological samples that once seemed useless can now provide investigators with detailed genetic profiles capable of identifying offenders years after a crime occurred. Advances in DNA sequencing, laboratory technology, and investigative genetic genealogy have allowed law enforcement agencies to reopen cold cases that were once considered impossible to solve. Across the United States, these scientific breakthroughs have helped identify unknown victims, locate missing persons, and bring long-awaited justice to families who spent decades searching for answers. If you liked this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up, leave a comment and click the button to subscribe.